Yo, what is up, world? It is Milton back with another podcast. I changed the name to Lincoln the Avatar. I didn't like Millennial Mind anymore. I don't feel like it really fit with where my head's at, on top of it being overly used like crazy on YouTube. So I decided to create something a little more original. And it actually comes from something that I've been thinking about over the past couple of days. I guess in the lapse between my last episode and now, I was actually working when the thought hit. It's I've had it before. I know what I feel and what I believe on that certain subject, but it's kind of hard to put it into words because it was more of an experience on a mushroom trip that I got this sense of what we are in this world. I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm not saying I'm right. And I'm not saying it's better than any other option out there. But for me, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it will make a lot more sense to other people if you just suspend your disbelief in what you've been taught, just for a few minutes and hear me out. So I actually wrote it on my phone. I wrote the notes. I'm gonna, read what I wrote, and then I'll elaborate on it so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. So what I wrote was, let's assume it's true that the consciousness is separate from the body, and the body is a vessel that contains your consciousness. If this is true, then the body is what belongs to this world, allowing your consciousness to exist in this realm. The vessel comes with a price that is required for you to exist, which tends to be this idea of a society, of living in a society with a preset amount of rules to conduct yourself in. For example, work, pay your taxes, contribute your knowledge to the world, uh, procreate, get married, all that stuff. And but the experience the consciousness wants to have in this world doesn't always have to do with what society expects of you. Hold on, let me read that again. The experience the consciousness wants to have in this world doesn't always have to do with what society expects of you. So, last part is key, and I'll get to that. But the beginning part, what I'm talking about is, you know, you gotta separate what the stuff you've been taught, because, we all grew up with our parents teaching us religion. At least a lot of us did. We our parents followed a certain religion that was passed to us. We believed that was the correct way about going about it. I didn't know picking to not follow any type of religion was even an option. I didn't even think that was possible. To me, it was either you pick a religion and you follow that, and that's what it was. Like, I know there was various different types, and they all had their different ways of thinking. But I never knew that you couldn't just not believe in religion at all. That was never even taught. I never even questioned it, not till I got older. And that knowledge gets passed on. Your parents teach you that. The people that are older than you teach you that, because that's what they were taught. So as you get older, I began to question a lot of that because it didn't make sense to me. And one time that I got really high on mushrooms, I actually felt this deep connection with the world around me. I felt like this sense of self just diminished, like the self, you, the person, just diminished. Like it was no longer there. Felt like I was a bigger part of everything. I was interconnected with the whole world. And I know it sounds crazy to people that have never experienced that type of trip or anything similar to it. You know, I know it sounds crazy. I've talked to people about it and they look at me like I'm fucking psycho. But it's what you choose to believe in. And if you believe what you experience, then does that make it any less real than anything else? Because the truth of the matter is, if you're willing to follow religion and understand what it is and actually believe in that, you're choosing to believe that. That's what's written in a book that someone else wrote. Now, I'm not saying that to offend anybody that follows religion, but the truth is, a lot of the stuff that's written on there is based on faith. You're going based on faith to believe that is true. The whole heaven and hell thing, in my opinion, was in order to control people. It's what it is. If they put fear in you, they can begin to control what you do and what you don't. And my theory that I came up with that this body is a vessel comes from the sense that that sense of self diminished for me. Like I didn't feel it. I felt like I was a bigger part of this world. It's all interconnected, everything. And the body is just it's a host. It's a vessel for your consciousness to exist in. Now where consciousness comes from and all that, I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, that's an unknown part that I haven't figured out yet. But it feels like there is this big interconnection between all living people. And we're here to experience a certain life depending on how you decide to experience it. Because we live and we die. Those things we know for sure. When you die, you don't know. That's a mystery. So what you choose to do in between the time you're born and the time you die is up to you. The vessel is for you to use however you see fit. Seems like the only price tag to the vessel is living in a society. And even if you choose to leave it, there's always a government or some higher governing body that always controls your movements, always controls where you're at. They always want a piece of whatever you're making. So we enter this world, and the price tag is living in a society. Whether you want to or not, this is the life you're born into. The vessel, and it's in this timeline. That's what you get. You're not born in the history. You're not born in the 1960s. You were born in whatever year you were born in, whether it's in 1990, 1980, 2000s, it doesn't matter. That you don't get a choice in that. So that's irrelevant. You're born into the world that you're born into. And the price tag is that, whatever that timeline needs. Whatever society and the people who are in control want, that is the price of you living in that vessel. So, what's a universal thing that everyone always talks about? What's the universal question that people always ask you when you first meet? Oh, what do you do for a living? What's your job? What's your job title? Why is that? Because it's the one thing that everyone has in common. We all have to work. We all need money to survive here. Whatever you choose to do with your life, wherever you go, whether you want to live off the grid, whether you don't, whether you want to homestead, whether you want to live in a city and nice fancy house, or you just want to get by frugally, doesn't matter. You need money. You always need it. That is the price tag of the vessel. You have to put in some contribution to the society you live in. And now, in this era and this time that we live in, it is, working. It's whatever job you enter, it's working in society, contributing in some way, shape, or form. Like I'm a truck driver. That's my contribution to the society. That's how I get paid. That's someone else's is, in a restaurant business, other people working in office and medical field, construction, all that. Everyone is putting some part into the society to keep it moving. We're all slaves to some type of work. The people that get it right are in that ideal situation where they're doing what they love, making money and still paying their taxes and all this stuff society requires of you while doing something they actually want. Because the problem is we all get in this trap of we need to work. We need to make money somehow. We need some form of income to survive and keep moving and to even thrive. We need to make a good amount of income. And a lot of people get trapped in this point where you're working in a certain job, you're not happy in it, but it pays well. You have a family, you have kids, even worse. You have to provide money. You have to provide for your family. And if you get trapped in a job you don't like, but it pays well, you're going to stay there because it's going to help you fund, the your type of lifestyle. And you end up with these people that are miserable in this cycle of working, getting tired from work, stressed out because they're in a job they don't like. Then they go home. All they want to do is relax. They turn on a TV or they put on music. TV is one of the worst things you can do when you come home. You turn it on, and all it does is it numbs your mind, puts you in this idle state of suggestedness. So whatever you see on TV, now they're implanting how you think and how you perceive your world. Now they're controlling every single thing that you're looking at, whether you want to admit it or not. It's a very subtle thing that's happening, and it's not a one-time thing where it's just, oh, one day they're putting this stuff and all of a sudden it programs you. Nah, this is subtle. This is over a long stretch of time. This is subtle programming, subtle changes in your mentality and the way you think. It's changing slowly. It's not something that happens quickly. I personally do my best to stay away from my phone. I do my best to stay away from watching movies or TV. I even minimize my music listening. I honestly prefer to be in my own head. A lot of the times I prefer to sit down and stare into the nothingness and just be in my own head, thinking through the stuff that's in my head, coming up with different ideas, different theories of certain shit. And to me, that's more fun than watching a movie someone wrote with subtle cues and certain beliefs that are trying to get you to lean towards this side, trying to steer your opinion and your way of thinking to this side instead of you coming up with your own. Just live the life that you want to live, and you'll eventually create your own ideas because you're in your own head. You're creating them by yourself. And the biggest problem I see is that trap that you get so stressed out and doing the job that you don't like doing. It stresses you out so much you no longer have energy to put into anything else that you want to do. So you end up in the cycle of pretty much paying the price tag of the vessel. And you forget that the consciousness wants to live its own experience. That's why you're so unhappy and stressed out, because all you're doing is what society demands of you and not what the consciousness wants. Not experiencing life for what it should be. It should be fun, you know? Um, and everyone's idea of fun is different. And I started seeing this other thing too of people talking about normalize this, normalize that. I get it, but at the same time, stop trying to fit into a box with everyone else. If you like something, do it. Stop expecting other people to think it's normal. I know we're all wired in biologically to be tribal people and get in a community, but that's the point. Find the people that do like doing what you do. That stuff that you're trying to normalize, find the group of people that like similarly what you like, and then it'll be normal to you and your group. Why does it have to be normal for everyone else? Like, I don't have anything against it. It's just changing the perception of the way you look at it. Why is it that you have to say, oh, let's normalize, you know, XYZ, when you can be around the people that already believe it's normal? That's the stuff they like to do. Surround yourself with those type of people instead of trying to make everyone else look at it normally. We're all weird. We all like different shit. That's the great part of being an individual. We all have different interests. We all have different things that we want to do with our lives. That's what makes it interesting when you meet someone new. Just fuck trying to be normal. That shit's boring. Be who you are. Live it. Experience it. Shit, for me, this idea that we are a consciousness in a vessel, you should be trying to do the best you can to keep that vessel at its most, uh, should I say, keep the vessel at its best possible performance possible, so that you live a longer life and you have more to experience. Because we can all agree that a body that is doing great physically, you can do a lot more with it than a body that's not. I myself have been on opposite ends of the spectrum. I've been really fit before. I gained really heavy weight, and now I'm actually bringing it down. I'm getting to a level where I actually feel the most comfortable. This is probably the best. I'm getting to that point where I'm getting to the best possible fitness I can get into, and I'm feeling like way more capable than I did when I was younger. I'm feeling a certain level of energy and surge of things that I want to do now, and I think a lot of it has to do with not wasting time on shit that doesn't matter, focusing on the stuff that does, the stuff that brings me the most joy, the most fulfillment. I put my energy in that. I don't put my energy on stuff that doesn't matter anymore, because if it doesn't matter, why waste time in it? If you hate it, if you don't like it, why put your energy into it? You're already doing that with, dealing with work with people that you don't necessarily like. You can't say you really love everyone in your job unless you own the business and you control every person that's in it. And even then you can't, because some people are really skilled and you're not always going to vibe with everyone, you know? And that's all right. That is what makes living so great, that everyone has the opportunity to have a different opinion, to have a different personality. Not every personality is going to match with one another. And that's a great thing. Finding people that you do actually get along great with, that is a challenge to find those people. And when you do find them, that feels fucking great, because now it's like you've created this circle of people that are like minded in some sense, not fully, because then there's no variables in the way you think. And it's always good to challenge your ideas. I like having conversations with people and challenging their ideas, because the challenge is my own. I enjoy that. I prefer that over watching TV or any of that any day. To me, that's more fulfilling than watching a movie and sitting down, not doing shit. I can't sit still anymore. I don't see it worth it. Like, sure, I've seen a few, actually the full thing, but I can't look at those movies or a TV show the same anymore. I just can't. I see it as someone else's work, and I see the subtle cues and little ideas that they're trying to make you feel a certain way about. It's like this map, a blueprint of what they want people to believe in. If you have a movie that's a huge blockbuster, right? And the person writing it has a certain way of thinking, is inputting that opinion heavily in the film, which a lot of them do, is similar to what I'm doing now, saying what I feel about certain things. The difference is it's a major picture. This movie is going to show everywhere. Everyone's going to see it. And while you're in a movie, while you're in those 2 hours of watching it, your mind is in an idle state. You get immersed in that world. All that world becomes a reality in that moment, because that is what you're being, that's what you're living in that moment. That's why you get that heart rate pumping when you see an action scene or you see one of those scary movies, and they put that music that makes you tense, on the edge of your seat. That's what it's meant to do. It's meant to immerse you in that world. And my problem with it is it immerses you in a world that isn't real. You're not really experiencing it, because it's like it's transporting your mind into this world that isn't really beneficial in any way, shape, or form. You get these dopamine hits of satisfaction watching this stuff, and they call it living vicariously through the things that you see. Watching somebody climb a mountain, you kind of feel like you get that dopamine hit of doing it because they recorded it, someone else doing it, and they show you the whole process and all that. So you, in your mind, even though you don't realize it, you feel like you lived that experience with that person, but you never left your couch. You never actually did it. And that's the problem. Your mind gets tricked into thinking you've done these certain things and lived a certain experience when you really haven't. So you don't really know the emotions of going through the process of doing those things. And that's what a movie does for you. Look at how big the Marvel movies were. They were creating this idea of a superhero, of all these heroes living in this world, sacrificing so much, and then they create a villain, and then they defeat the villain, and they get to that top spot of being the superhero and giving the superhero this plot twist. That was entertaining. It immersed you in this world of the struggle of the superhero trying to do good, but the villain also showing some part of why he's right, and this stuff. This is all opinions and stuff written by someone and then pushed to people while they're watching the movie. That's why there's a lot of people that think commonly, because they see this stuff and they don't realize that they're getting taught this, right? Like this movement was recent, and I'm seeing it a lot more in movies now than ever before. This idea of female leaders in films. You know, you can have your opinions on that. However you feel. I have my own, and I'll get into that into another podcast because it's a whole other thing I want to talk about. But I've been seeing that a lot more now than before. I seen the females in leader positions that were normally men before. It's all getting put into everything that you see. It's trying to normalize the fact of a woman leading. That's it is an opinion, and it's getting pushed everywhere you look. Every TV show, movies, you know, all that stuff is getting pushed. I'm seeing it so much in so many movies in subtle ways that if you're not even paying attention to that, you won't even catch it. You won't even notice it's happening. But it's happening in a lot of movies, and not just that, a bunch of other ideas. And the thing is, what I'm trying to get to is this consciousness that we experience, the capability of the mind. There's so much potential to it. There's so much you can do with it, especially when you spend time in silence with yourself. When you actually spend time in your mind trying to understand yourself and see what you're about, you reach this level of deep understanding for yourself that it's a fucking amazing thing. And I feel like the more your phone is present in your times of boredom or downtime, the more you numb those downtimes with your phone, watching TV, just blasting music in your car in between car rides to the store from your house or from your job to anywhere, all your commutes. The more you put YouTube videos and music and even podcasts, all that numbs certain ideas that you're having with yourself. Watch my videos, take what you want from them, and reflect on what I'm talking about afterwards. Do it in silence. Do it before you go to bed, or when you're eating. Eat without any noise. Sit down with yourself. Take time. If you have a couple minutes to sit with yourself, do it. Don't turn on your phone. Leave it the fuck off. Leave it somewhere else. If the temptation is too high, leave it in another room. Don't turn on the TV. Don't turn on music. Don't do anything. Just sit with yourself 10, 20 minutes. Let those thoughts flow through you, even as uncomfortable as they are. The beginning is always the worst because the uncomfortable thoughts are going to come. They're going to rise. They're going to come to the surface. All the stuff you don't want to think about, that all comes up. That's because you haven't dealt with any of it. So that's the first thing that comes up. That's what you have to deal with first. The fun part is afterwards. After you get through the uncomfortableness of doing that, it becomes a habit, becomes easier. You begin able to adjust your emotions. You begin to adjust your emotions. You're able to control your impulses and all that much easier. And that is what I'm trying to get people to understand. Consciousness is here to experience the world. And the more you get put to sleep with all this bombardment of distractions, you're never going to be able to actually experience life how you should, because there is so much to your mind. Your potential is so huge. that you'll never tap into it if you keep allowing yourself to get distracted by all these distractions of media all over the place, all this fear that the news puts out to you. It makes you do rash decisions. It makes you act out of fear. Everything you do becomes acting out of fear, and it's not good. Like, if the decisions you're making are out of fear, it's always going to come from a place of safety, trying to get to the most safe, comfortable space, and that's not always the healthiest option. So for me, getting away from all this media has helped me navigate myself better. That's even put me in uncomfortable situations where now I feel way better doing the stuff that I'm doing, you know. And I hope that even though I'm rambling here and saying a bunch of shit, like maybe it makes sense to some people. And I know that that whole theory that I put out of the body being a vessel, I know it's hard for some people to even understand it, especially when you're believing in a certain religion. It's kind of hard to let go of the beliefs that you have. And I'm not saying to leave that and believe what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Just saying, I'm just putting out there for you to think for yourself. Let uh, my thoughts kind of provoke thoughts within yours. Because I don't know if I'm right. And I believe nobody knows what the fuck is going on in this world. They just have some idea based on the stuff they believe in. And they confidently say they know what's going on. I think nobody knows shit. Like all the science that we think we have, that's all based on theories. It's as close as we will ever get to answers. But they're not definite answers. We will never know that. And to me, that is a fucking awesome thing because it keeps the world in this sort of mysterious thing that we'll never solve. And if you can't solve it, what else do you have? Experiencing the stuff that is real, that surrounds you. To me, for me, my experiences in this world are my teachers. Like my emotions and stuff I go through, that's what teaches me about life. If someone tells me a certain story and emotions that they went through and they tell me, oh, don't do that. Of course, you're going to listen to some things that will avoid you from making a really bad mistake. But sometimes that mistake leaves a bad taste in your mouth. That it gives you this life experience that you don't want to ever live that again. So it becomes a lot stronger than someone telling you what that experience was like. So my point in saying that is your experience that you have in this world is your teacher. That is the greatest thing that you have as a human experience. And that requires for you to live. It requires for you to live different different things. And if all your experiences surrounded around a certain thing, around what society expects of you, the stuff that is required for you to fit in, for people to accept you and all that, you're pushing aside your organic experiences that you want to have. You're putting this idea of what is normal and what society wants out of you in front of what would truly be the thing that fulfills you, if that makes any sense. I began to realize that for me, uh, fitness, building my own mental strength, putting myself through very uncomfortable situations has fulfilled me in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. So for me, training daily, doing that uncomfortable shit, pushing my body to new limits and staying busy all the time, staying away from all these distractions and sitting with myself, that is much more fulfilling to me than a lot of other stuff that it just I feel like it's a waste of time because for me if I put my body through some crazy shit and I'm able to come out the other side having done it, even though it beats my body up, I live that. That experience is crazy. Like knowing that you can push your body to a certain limit and you can still recover from it and do it again. That's fucking crazy. That is all your mind pushing your body to do more and more. That's a very powerful thing in the mind that you won't unlock if you keep allowing yourself to. Fourth of July fireworks are still popping. If you keep allowing yourself to get distracted that way, you'll never tap into that potential. And I didn't tap into it until I stopped letting go of all this media and all this stuff. I let it go, and it allowed me to tap into that part of my brain that can make things happen. And I actually got over this really huge fear, a phobia that I had from when I was a kid because of that. It allowed me to face it on, and it gave me this mental strength that I'll have to do a whole other video describing that. It marked this point in my mental strength that I didn't even know was possible. And this was all because I cut out all this distractions, all this media, and all these distractions that stop you from being able to sit with yourself and get to know who you are and what this consciousness is that's within this body. You do with it as you want. You know, I can only give my opinion. Everyone else is giving theirs. And I feel like I can put out mine, and maybe it might help some people. Maybe not. I don't know. I'll do another video though soon talking about those fears because it's one thing that I think it's a very powerful thing that can help you unlock a lot. Um, yeah, I'll probably do that next because that's a very big one. I can't really. If I were to do it now, fuck, this will be like a 2 hour thing, and I want to prep that a little more. But link in the avatar. That's the name because I feel like if you can connect your mind with the body, avatar being the body, uh, if you can connect your mind to that, you'll have an immense amount of power in manifesting the life that you want to have. It's a huge thing that I don't know if enough people are doing it. And I just hope more people do it. So, giving my opinion on it. Link in the avatar.